know where you were going with that.
I've been waiting a couple of years to tell this. I couldn't think of a better spot. I couldn't think of a better spot.
I'm Ronnie. I'm an addict. Glad to be here. I'm glad to be clean another day. I thought that was a better story coming than that. My wife's behind you. You can ask her. Right before I came up here, Mike B came up to me and gave me a hug, and he looked at me and he said, "You're enough." So I guess I'm working with enough tonight. We're doing pretty good, folks. Look around us. Nice place, isn't it? My best friend gave me a hug before I came in here, and he told me, he said, 14 years ago, I was getting kicked out of a hotel like this, out of the lobby. He said, and they were pointing at me and telling me, "Look here, y'all, get a good look at this guy. He's a thief," as they kicked him out the front door. And now we're coming in here, and they're welcoming us, looking us in the eye, saying, "Is there anything we can do to make y'all comfortable here?" We do recover. It's an honor to ask to participate in this convention and speak and share my experience, strength, and hope. And, you know, I was thinking an honor should feel good, right? My experience, loss of appetite, loss of sleep, high anxiety, stress. I associated that. I actually had a feeling this week in my gut that reminded me of when my high school sweetheart was dating my best friend. So I didn't quite understand how honor and something positive should relate to that. And you know what? That's why I need NA. You know, I'm not a polished speaker. You know, I don't ever plot anything out. I shoot from the hip. You know, I say a prayer. I ask God, you know, to use me as a vehicle. You know, this is His program. You know, and that's the only way I've ever done it. You know, when I was new in here, and if I was ever asked to speak or do something, you know, I always used to try to script something out or plan what I was going to say. And they say there's three things that happen when you speak. You know, you think about what you're going to say, and then there is what you do say, and the third thing is when you get down, what you wish you would have said, you know? And that's my experience. That's the way that it is. You know, I love AVCNA. I love this convention. Alan gave me a hug coming up here, and he told me, he said, you know, this is our AVCNA, our quaint little convention. And it is. You know, he said, this isn't like going to C&P where, you know, you can walk through a hallway, see hundreds of people, and you don't know any of them. You know, when I come here, every time I turn around, man, there's some face and somebody that, you know, I might not have seen since the last AVCNA I was at, but it's just a nice, quaint little convention after the holidays to get the year started out on the right foot, man. And I love it here, man. I love it. Coming in the lobby tonight and walking up here, there were so many people, man, that just came up to me, you know, and hugged me. They looked at me, they said, "I love you, you know, let it flow." The people that know me, you know, that know me real well, I lose control of my emotions sharing. And a lot of people laugh and they say, "Oh, we know he's going to cry." And you know what? That's a part of it, and it's a part of it that I don't always like. You know, you have people in meetings say, "Man, I wish I could share and get to those feelings." Well, guess what? Be careful what you pray for. You just might get it. Because there's a lot of times, you know, when I'll just start sharing in a meeting or something, and, man, it just comes out, and I start crying, and, you know, I feel embarrassed. You know what I mean? And I've come a long way with it. I try to say, you know, hey, it's cleansing of the soul. You know, it's okay, you know. But I don't necessarily like it, you know. If you like a drug log, you're in the wrong place, because I don't have one. You know, I live to use and use to live. And that's the bottom line. When I read that in the text, I knew they were talking about me. You know, and I can share some stuff with you, some stuff that happened to me in my personal life that led to me getting clean. But I don't talk about, you know, we used on different street corners and might have used a little bit of different drugs, but you know what? It was basically all the same. You know, I don't care if your drug of choice is alcohol, heroin, cocaine. I don't care about any of that. You experience degradation, loneliness, isolation, self-centered fear. That's what ran my life. That's what everybody that I have met in NA that looks at me in my eyes, that's what we have in common. You know, that's the empathy. You know, that's what I found here, what I didn't find. And I'm going to say something because I don't ever want anybody to take me the wrong way or offend anybody. Anywhere you go to get help is fine with me. You know, anywhere you go is fine with me. And I don't fault anybody for getting any kind of help to try to make them a better person. There's nothing wrong. Second step, open my mind that I can go get some help if I need some help, you know. But at the same time, where I found the most powerful help in the world to treat the biggest thing that kicks my ass, addiction, was in Narcotics Anonymous. People in here walked a mile on my shoes, you know. They know what it's like. When I talk to people and I tell them about being in a mental institution, looking out the wire mesh across the field. I was 23 years old. I was in a mental institution for the second time, and I was looking out across the field, and there was a feeling that came over me. And I talk about this a lot. This is one of the biggest turning point in my whole life, you know. And I was tired, man. I was real tired. I was beat up. I was hurt, you know. It was Christmas time. I was looking out across that field, and I can remember sitting there, and I was thinking, thank God I'm safe. And I say this a lot. If you would have asked me at that moment in my life, do you want to stay in here the rest of your life, or do you want to go back out and try to live? I stayed in there. And I think about that today in my life. I celebrated 14 years clean Christmas night. And I'll tell you what, I've had some wonderful experiences in those 14 years. And if I would have signed on for what I wanted to do that night in that mental institution, I'd have missed out on all that. Hence, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. You know. My first exposure to Narcotics Anonymous was in an institution. And you know, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I got out of this mental institution, and I had already been through state-funded treatments, all those kind of things, you know, and I'd already done a bunch of counselor deals, and I didn't have anywhere to live. And, you know, I had some family, and my mom was sort of mingling on the outskirts of my life, and she wanted to help me, but not the type of help of come live at the house. You need to get some serious help, you know. And she found a detox, an old broken down detox for me to go stay at. And it was in Winchester. I had never been to Winchester, Virginia my whole life, you know. And they took me to this place, and I walked in there, and it was old, broken down looking place, man. And you know, at that point, I got hit with that feeling again. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave, you know. I didn't want to go in there. I had a bag of clothes. It was all my belongings in my life. It was in a paper bag. And I stood there and I looked, and I was going to walk behind there, and something said, man, don't do it again. You know, leave. And I don't know, whatever power greater than me helped me walk in that place and stay. And I tell you, I was an emotional basket case, you know. I was walking around, my emotions were up and down, you know, I was crying, laughing, you know, I mean, I was a basket case. And I was very full of fear, you know, and I didn't even want to go outside. And this guy took me took me to some meetings, and I'd go to the meeting, and I would sort of hide out. And one particular meeting, they called on me, and I started to share, and I just lost it, man. I just started crying. It was like all the pain of my whole life started pouring out of me, you know. And there was a gentleman there that came up to me after the meeting. That was Bill, the man that introduced me. And he said, you want some help? I said, man, I'll do anything, anything. He goes, well, he said, I'm going to get you into treatment up here. And I was like, I knew I'd heard about this fancy treatment center up on the hill. And I said, man, I got no money, I got no insurance, I got nothing, you know. And he said, well, do you want help? I was like, I told you I'd do anything. He said, well, meet me up on the hill, 2 o'clock or something. It was a noon meeting. And we go up on the hill. He takes me in the room with this director of this treatment center. Turns around and leaves me in there. I was like, where you going, man? Where you going, you know? And the guy looks at me and he says, you want to come in here? I said, yeah. I said, I don't have money. I don't have insurance. Don't have anything. And he said, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, I'll run this place. I got an open bed. I'll bring you in here. But you have to make me one commitment. And he said, when you leave here, you're going to go live in the halfway house down here for 3 months. And I wasn't the smartest dude at the time in my life, but I knew I didn't have anywhere to live, and I knew that was 4 months of a bed, food. And I was like, sounds good to me. You got yourself a deal, you know? And I say this, and I don't say this, you know, I'm not, you know, endorsing treatment, saying all that stuff. I say this because I was turning my will and my life over. I had made that decision. I didn't know it, but I didn't regulate. I didn't say, nah, I'm only going to go 30 days. You know, I had done that before. I had left the treatment center the day I was leaving. This guy came up to me. He goes, you know what? He said, I think you need to go somewhere with some supervised housing. I was like, nah, I'm all right. I got a job waiting for me back in D.C. I'm all right. I got it all under control. I ain't got to tell you what happened. You know? And this one time, I listened to these people. I let these people help me. I let these people intervene in my life. And the results were amazing, you know. And I was living in that halfway house. And I was at a meeting, and this guy again, Bill, he says to me, he goes, I'm going to a convention this weekend. You want to go? I couldn't even get out of the place. I had like a curfew. I had to be in at 11 o'clock or something. And I said, I can't go. He goes, well, you're in the halfway house? I said, yeah. He took me back to the halfway house, talked to the guy that ran the place, you know, got me a weekend pass, and he took me to the first C&P convention. And once again, I still only had these couple little clothing items, so I didn't have a lot of clothes. And I didn't have any money. He took me there. He put me in a room, you know, got me a package. And I'll never forget this. I went to the Saturday night speaker meeting, and I sat in that room and I looked around. I'd never experienced anything like that in my entire life, you know. And I walked out of that room, and I knew it was the first time in my life that I ever felt like everything is going to be all right. And, you know, I was a grown man, and I walked out, and I had this feeling of elation. And, you know, I couldn't even identify that feeling then. You know what that feeling was? It was hope. I was a grown man the first time in my life when I realized this is hope, man. This is hope. And I walked out of there, and it was late. You know, it was after the meeting and all the hoopla, clean time countdown, all that stuff. And I went to a payphone. I called my mother, woke her up. She thought it was another one of them nighttime phone calls. Come get me, I need some help. You know, she says, well, where you at? What are you doing? You know, she figured I ran from this place or something, you know. And, you know, I told her, I said, you know what, Ma? I said, all the stuff we've been through all these years, it's going to be all right, because I'm going to make it. My life has changed ever since then. You know, the guys there that weekend, you know, I had this picture sitting on a couch outside of this banquet room. I probably weighed 145 pounds, and I had gained some serious weight. So I was 6'3", 145, and I had probably put on 25 pounds when I was in treatment. And I'm sitting on this couch. I got one guy's pants on. I got another guy's sport coat on. You know, I didn't have any clothes. They, you know, dressed me up, took me to the banquet. I'm sitting on there, and I got my arm around my best friend over here, and I look like a skeleton in a sport coat, you know. And it's amazing to look back, man, where we come from, man. You know, it's a miracle. You know, people talk about miracles in here. Miracles happen in here, man. Take a look around. Look at the seat next to you if you want to see a miracle, man. I can't speak for anybody else, but you know what? I know where I come from. I know the road that I lived. And it's sort of a cliche, a saying, but I really believe it. I came here the day before I died. There you go. You know, I suffered, man, and there was a lot of days I wanted to take my own life, and what some of those people do that put that gun in their mouth and blow their brains out or take that shot, whatever they do to check out, I understand that pain. I relate to that pain. I did not have what it took to take that one extra step. You know, I can remember walking down the road hallucinating PCP and looking in the tree and seeing myself hang from this tree with a noose around my neck and being unable to tell whether I was living a dream. I didn't know. You know, I had lost the ability to separate what I was thinking and what was happening to me. That's the best that I could do making decisions in my life. That's how I ended up. You know, I didn't do too good. You know, I didn't do too good at all. You know, and that convention, I went to that convention, and I made a commitment to this fellowship, you know. And I was real adamant about this thing. And, you know, we all laugh about it now and stuff, but, you know, you don't belong to anything your whole life. You don't believe in anything. You don't stand for anything. And you come in this fellowship, and you get plugged in, and we become adamant about it. Traditions, principles, sponsors, steps. And you know what? It's the first thing in our life we ever identified with. It's the first thing we ever feel a part of. You're supposed to be adamant about it, you know? We used to go to meetings and think that you were supposed to say certain things and, you know, do this thing a certain way. And I'll say it again, thank God we do recover, you know. I've come a long way, you know. I speak what I believe. I share my experience, strength, and hope, but I don't inflict my disease and my control on nobody else in the rooms. I don't need to do that, you know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in a home group. Home group was one of the first places I ever plugged in. You know, they used to read a statement in the area that I got clean, and it said, if you don't have a home group, you may have a hole in your program, and we hope you don't fall through it. And, you know, I can tell you after 14 years in here, my best friends, my home group, my sponsor, the God of my understanding, on certain days, they've all played just as important role. And my home group is a wonderful place. It's a Monday night Cracker Box meeting in Fairfax. It's been there a long time. It's an established meeting. You can go in there any given night, and there's guys, women sitting in there with many people in there with over 10 years of clean time. It's established NA meeting. And you know what? 14 years ago, there wasn't established NA meetings. There was a few troopers around like Larry N. and Billy E. And I tell you what, we owe a great deal to those people. They did a lot for this convention, man. Let's give them a clap, man. Yeah. I got a sponsor in here. And I tell you, I talked about being so beat up and emotionally unstable. And I really tied into my sponsor, man. I really found a place to share with my sponsor. And, you know, he taught me about steps and about writing steps. He taught me about addiction. And, you know, we come in here and its focus is drugs, 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 you know, and that's all we know, you know. Nothing wrong with that. But he taught me about addiction. He taught me about obsession, compulsion, denial. And when I heard those things, he told me what obsession was. The fixed idea that takes us back time and time again to recapture the ease we once knew. And what that meant was when I chased that first high all those years because it was fixed in my mind. He told me what compulsion was. He said once you start that process by putting something in your body, you are unable to stop. So that was when Ronnie got paid, he was on his way home and he stopped at the liquor store and his mind was saying, go home and pay your bills. And the other side over here was saying, just stop in there and get a six-pack. You'll be all right. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm kicking empty beer cans in the parking lot with no money left, wondering what happened. Compulsion. Denial. Everybody in your whole life knows you got a problem but you. The police know. Your parents know. Your friends know. But the famous saying, I can handle it. I got it. I'm going to get the right job, the right crib, the right woman. I'm going to get everything in place, and everything's going to be all right. And guess what? The chips never fall down like that. Denial. And I learned, and I'm so grateful for this. People in here taught me what was wrong with me. You know, it's one thing not to use. It's another thing to have an idea of what ails me, you know, and have an idea what makes me better. You know, we have a disease that tells us that we don't have anything wrong with us. You know, we have a disease that says, I don't need a sponsor. I don't need a home group. I don't need to work steps, you know. Well, I'm isolating today because my feelings are hurt because my best friend ain't called me in 2 weeks. I need to pick up the phone and call him. Nah, I ain't calling nobody. That's what my disease does to me. You know, I have a disease that wants me isolated. You know, it doesn't want me calling my friends saying, look, you know, you said some things to me. I called my best friend in here, Kevin, last night. He said some things to me on the phone Monday I took offense to. And I was thinking, I ain't calling him. Hell with him, you know? And I started thinking, yeah, you're going to walk up on that stage tomorrow night with your best connection in the world that you've had for 14 years, and you're not going to feel close to him. Can't have that. I got to pick up the phone. I got to call him. I got to talk to him and tell him what's bothering me, as petty as it is. And you know what? Can't stay clean on yesterday's recovery. You know, I've grown up in here, and you know, I met this man over here 14 years ago, and I was the best man at his wedding. For the second time, I was the best man at his wedding, and you know, I gave a toast at his wedding, and I talked about our relationship, and I talked about how we sort of grew up in here together, and we learned to love one another. We learned to share with one another, and we were able to take that out in our lives and share it with our significant others. You know, I didn't learn that. I learned that in here with that man. I learned how to love from another man, and I used to not be comfortable saying that, you know, but I learned that stuff from a man, you know, and I'm able to practice it in my life, you know, with my wife, my significant other, who's sitting down here looking at me now. That's another thing. I have about, 5 really close friends in the last few years who've gotten married. And I've been in their weddings. They were in my wedding. And I tell you, man, at my wedding, I was so anxiety-ridden. I was in the back of the church, man, and I just lost it. You know, I started crying. And one by one, they all walked in there, and they looked at me, and it's like, oh, there he is again, you know? And they came and gave me that hug, you know, and they're like, it's like, he is what he is, but we love him. That's what I found here. And I have been so fortunate, man, to participate in so many people's lives. And, you know, when you're new and you come here and you say, man, in the back of our mind, we're thinking, you know, I'm going to go there long enough to get squared away, you know, but I ain't going to go there forever, you know. And how many people thought that, you know? I'm one of them. And you know what? I've come here so long, I don't want to go anywhere else. I love it here. Best game in town right here, folks. Best game in town right here. There's no doubt in my mind. The steps have been a big part of my life, you know, and I'm not going to beat everybody's brow with the steps and all that, but I can tell you that, you know, there were some certain things that really stuck out to me. And when I got to do a 4-step, my sponsor at the time, there was no NA guide out. They had a print of the guide that they have now. It was in the approval process. And he told me, he said, you know, don't worry about that guide, just write a life story. And I said, all right, that'll be fine. About 3 months later, I hadn't done anything. I went back to him, I said, you know, I don't want to write a life story. I want to use that approval guide they got. He goes, that'll be fine, go ahead, use it. You know, 3 months later, I went back to him again. I said, I don't like that thing. I'm gonna do that life story, you know. And he looked at me and smiled, and this went on for like a year. And he says, you know, he put his arm around me. He says, you know what? He said, we need to go back to the 3rd step. There you go. You know, and I did that, and I worked real hard, and I said the words. You know, it's like, God loves me. I used to say simple things, and I used dialogue prayer. Riding down the road in the car, I would look at the seat next to me, nobody was there, and I would talk to God like he was a friend in the car, and I would have conversation, and I wasn't good at praying, you know, and I used the 3rd step prayer. Take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, teach me how to live. That was my prayer, you know. I had went to Sunday school and stuff as a kid, and I can remember being about 12 years old. I was getting ready to smoke a joint, and I looked up in the air, and I said, God, I'm going to look this way, you look that way. It was like one of these numbers. Because I didn't want him looking down upon me, because I knew down deep in my heart that I wasn't doing right. You know, and then when I came in these rooms and they talked about God and they wanted me to ask God for help, I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I was like, I can't ask God for help. I turned my back on God a long time ago. You know, that's why they have sponsors. That's why there's a 2nd step before the 3rd step, you know, that teaches us to open our mind to believe in something, that something is greater than us and can help us, you know. And the home group and the rooms and the people in here was what I used for a long time, and I worked on that prayer, and I practiced it. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. You get muscles from lifting weights. You get strength from practicing prayer, you know. I finally got to do a 4-step, and I can't tell you how many times I read that book, because, you know, when you get ready to write a 4-step, you'll read it like 100 times, because that's not actually writing, you know. And there was a line in there that said, it says something about we develop the ability to survive our emotions. And you know what? I hadn't survived my emotions very well in my life. I was the kind of guy that used to punch holes in walls, beat my car up. I can't tell you. I'd get an emotion. I'd react on everything, and everything was anger. And my friend Bill told y'all about that. And I was a very angry guy, and, you know, I tried to deal with my anger in here for quite some time, and caused me a great deal of pain. And it got so great that I was humiliated so bad one time because of something that I did in here that I almost didn't come back. And you know what? I got some help, you know, and I dealt with my issues, you know, and I was able to do a 4-step, and I obsessed on it. You know, like everything else I'd done in my life, I had obsessed. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I thought I was writing a best-selling novel, you know. And I wrote until I couldn't take it anymore. You know, I couldn't take it anymore. I was at the World Convention in California. My sponsor wasn't even there. And I had this book that I had been lugging around, and my guts were just spilling out, and I was in a great deal of pain. And I grabbed my best friend, man, and we went up on the top of a mountain, and I spent... I don't know, I don't want to exaggerate, but I guarantee you we went up there and it was light and it was dark. We almost couldn't get down off the mountain. I know we were up there probably 6-7 hours, man, with one man. And I was crying and sharing and getting hugged and getting that confirmation that I wanted my whole life, you know. Somebody look at me and nod their head in approval. It's like, I understand, brother. I've been where you've been, and it's okay. You know, and he didn't have all these great lines of wisdom. He just looked at me with that nod of approval, you know. And I tell you, I've been very fortunate to hear quite a few other people's fifth steps. You know what? And it's an honor, man. It's an honor. And I found a tool that day. You know, the fifth step is not an event. It's a tool that you can use anytime in your life, you know. We admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. You know, and you don't have to wait for an event to share it, because if you're lugging it around, that's excess baggage that you don't have to carry, you know. And I tell you, another painful time in my recovery, sixth step. Hello. Time of rebellion, a time I had been clean long enough, and you know, I did a lot of work, you know, and I tell you what, I saw somebody that I did not like, me, you know. I had a big mouth, you know. I was very boisterous, very pushy. And it was like right at that time when I was writing on the sixth step, you know, I stepped on my tongue a lot. You know, I embarrassed myself. And I tell you, I saw this guy, and I reflected, and I didn't like a lot of the stuff, you know. In my experience, what I learned with the sixth step, that it wasn't that everything about me was going to change. It was about that Ronnie was going to accept some of the imperfections that he had. They talk about learning to love yourself a little bit, learning to forgive yourself, learning to accept a little bit. That's what I learned in the sixth step and the seventh step. I learned that Ronnie wasn't perfect, wasn't ever going to be perfect, and I was a decent guy trying to get better. And when I wake up in the morning, you know, I do the best I can do today. You know, that's what I do. That's all I got. And I tell you what, some days it's better than others. Because if you followed me around in my life, some days I wouldn't be a great example of a recovering addict. You know, follow me in traffic, follow me in the line in the store, ask Kevin A. Yeah. And I tell you, it was another plateau to me on the eighth and ninth step. You know, when I started making some amends, it was like a whole bunch of memory bubbles burst, because I had wrote such a thorough four-step. I thought I had covered everything in my life, you know, but I had stayed clean some more time. I started writing this 8-step list, and it was like, man, that wasn't in my four-step. That wasn't in my four-step. It was like a whole new thing for me. I uncovered a whole new thing of stuff, you know, and I made the direct amends to family members, people that were contactable, and I aggressively did it, you know. It's like a lot of people don't do that, and I didn't do it with the drug dealers and all that kind of stuff. You know, my sponsor said, and I listened, you know. I had a great deal of debt that I owed. I wanted to file bankruptcy, you know. I wanted to go get a grant to go to school because I was an addict. I had a sponsor that looked at me, he said, you got 2 arms, 2 legs, you don't look handicapped to me. He said, go get a job, save your money, pay for your own schooling. I owed back bills, debts, and don't get me wrong, y'all, I'm sharing my experience. Whatever you do is all right with you, you know. I had a bunch of bills, I wanted to file bankruptcy. He looked at me and said, you borrowed the money, you owe the money, pay it off. And you know what? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I had bill collectors used to call my house Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. And you know what? They didn't want to hear, I ain't on the 9th step yet. You know, they didn't want to hear that. They wanted money. And you know what? 10, 15, 20, 25, $100 at a time, I paid the money back. And you know what I got when I paid it back? A great sense of accomplishment. The steps build character, man. They're character builders. Continue to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admitted it. Promptly. It's a tough time with promptly. It's come a long way, though. I had that conversation with Kevin on Monday, and I called him on Thursday. That was 3 days. Could have been 3 months I could have walked around with that. You know? And you know what? It's my choice, man. It's my choice. You know, all the tools, all the utensils are right here. And that's what's wrong with me, is I know the stuff's right there. I have all the information, but something in me some days doesn't want me to use it. I want to sit home in my basement with no telephone, with the clicker, and I want to isolate. I want to be left alone. you know, and that's okay every once in a while. I need to get away and get a couple hours. I got a very demanding job. I have a very busy life, and sometimes I need a little time to myself. But I know when I'm crossing over that line, you know, when people are calling, I'm not returning calls, I'm not answering the phone and all that stuff. That's the enemy of time, man. That's the enemy of time. You know, I'm okay. I've been doing this thing a long time. I'm all right. You know, I don't need a home group anymore. I don't need to call my sponsor. You know, that's the enemy of time. You know, I was reading the 11th step this week in the text, and there was a couple things in there that really crushed me. And it said the way that we see the person we want to be are but God's fleeting glimpses of how we're going to turn out in roundabout ways. That's what it said. And I think I was about 6 months clean, and I was waxing my new Mustang convertible, and the sun was shining and the radio was playing, and man, you know, I was strutting them tail feathers, feeling good. You know how we are when we're new. You know, I was all pumped up and happy, and I stopped, and I had this revelation. You know, when I was about 2 days out of that nut house, and I was walking down the street, and I was in so much pain, and I was like dreaming, and I saw myself waxing this car, having this car. And it was like that was all I wanted in life, because I was beat down so bad. You know, I wanted some happiness. I wanted to be in a different place, a different time. And that day, I was waxing that car. I realized I was living a dream. As little as it was, I was living a dream, you know. And you know what's amazing? You can read that book and you can read that text, and there's so many things in there that you look at happen to you in your life. It's amazing, man. You know, I read that book with all these years clean, and it's like the hair on my neck stands up. It's like, damn, they're talking about me. You know, a book written by addicts for addicts, you know. We forget how powerful of a tool that book is, you know. And there was another line in there that talked about, you know, staying clean and practicing prayer and meditation and nurturing the spiritual recovery in this program. And it said that if we take care of our spiritual needs, that the problems in life are okay. You know, in other words, if I have a big issue going on in life, I like to obsess on it and fix it and make it right. You know, and what it was telling me was, take care of your spiritual needs. Do your prayer, your meditation, and share and work the program. And you know what? That problem will be okay. You can address it, you know. You don't have to obsess on it, you know. That's the story of my life, you know. I want to fix everything. I want it fixed right now. And there's another thing in the 11th step. It says, by the time we reach this step and we're working these principles in our life, we lose the urgency to take care of matters. How many days in your life have you walked around when something's not quite right and there's this urgency that I gotta fix it? You know what? You ain't gotta fix it. It's all right just like it is, man. It's all right. Right now, in God's time, right now, it's all right, you know? And the last step says that we're gonna give back what's been so freely given to us. And I was in Florida last week, and I went to a meeting, and I was with this lady that had 19 years clean. We go in this meeting, and she looks around, and she looks at me. She says, you know, she said, there isn't any women in here. She said, that's why I go to these other meetings. I looked at her. I said, you know what? Ain't all about you. 19 years clean. You keep what you have by giving it away. And you know what? It's up to every single one of us, because what if you walked in your first meeting and everybody wasn't there? You know? And you know what? When you got 19 years, it's about giving it back. It's about being visible. It's about sitting in that meeting so when that young lady that has 30 days that comes in there has somebody to identify with. And you know what? We didn't all have that. You know, I look around this room, there's some people in here who've been clean a long time. And you know what? There's some pioneers in here that built some bridges for us. There's a whole lot of us to build bridges now, you know. And life gets real good. It's real easy, you know, to get into fixing the house up. We're good at our profession. We get married. We have families. There's so many wonderful things that are given back to us. And you know, we like to live it up. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. But don't forget why you got it. when you're sitting home next week, it's time to go to a meeting, HBO's on, turn it off and go to the meeting. Somebody new might walk in the door that night and you tell his story. You know? Thank God for that guy that was there that told my story. You know? I owe my life to NA. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing we got here, people. It's a wonderful thing. And I feel really blessed, overwhelmed. I'm really, really a blessed guy, man. 14 years ago, could have been my calling, sitting up there in Western State. Thank you, brother. They know me. One time I spoke at this meeting in Richmond, and the people in the front row were moving back. I was getting a white foam ring around my mouth. I've been here long enough, see, they know me. I didn't even ask for that. Thank you, brother. But I'm really glad to be here. I feel really blessed. You know, I want to say one other thing. When at the end of the road, we find we can no longer function as a human being. With or without drugs, we all face the same dilemma. What is there left to do? There seems to be this alternative. Either go on best we can to the bitter ends, jails, institutions, or death, or find a new way to live. Years gone by, very few addicts ever had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proving itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to us all. It's a simple, spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous. Have a good convention. Thank you.